Welcome to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein, talking about the evolutionary, the revolutionary, the inspiration and the perspiration, and those aha moments that change everything. And now here's your host, Rich Goldstein.
Rich Goldstein here, host of the Innovations and Breakthroughs podcast, where I feature top leaders and the path they took to create change. Past guests include Roland Frazier, Rick Cesari, and Kevin King. This episode is brought to you by my firm, Goldstein Patent Law, where we help you to protect your ideas and products. We've advised and obtained patents for thousands of companies over the past 25 years. So if you're a company that has software, product, or design you want protected, you can go to goldsteinpatentlaw.com, where there are great resources for learning about the patent process. And if you want to see if it's a match to work with us, then you can email welcome@goldsteinpc.com and correspond with my staff. You can also check out the book that I wrote for the American Bar Association that explains in plain English how patents work. It's called the ABA Consumer Guide to Obtaining a Patent. And so I have here today Josh Marsden. Josh runs CVO Acceleration Performance Marketing Agency. He works with e-commerce entrepreneurs, and he hosts the e-commerce performance marketing show. And he recently held the e-commerce on Mass Summit, during which he featured really top-level speakers from within the e-commerce community. He's an MBA, he's an author, he's a U.S. Army vet. He helps e-commerce companies scale from 7 to 8 figures with his ARM5 Formula. And he's author of the Facebook Advertising Trends and Strategies for E-commerce book, both the 2019 and 2020 editions. Welcome, Josh. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Rich. I appreciate the awesome introduction. You're making me blush over here. It's a pleasure to be on. I really
That's what I was going for. A little bit of color.
Yeah, I'm not like a egotistical bragging type person. I probably need to be a little bit more bragging, but yeah, I mean, obviously I've done some stuff, and I'm going to continue to do a lot more things, in the future. So thank you so much.
You may not brag, but you've got bragging rights.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, let's talk about a little bit about how you got into marketing. I know you were involved in marketing automation. You were in sales, basically. You have a background in sales. You spent a good amount of time selling for SaaS type companies, right?
Yep.
And then that led you into marketing. So, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. I haven't told the story in a while, but, just going back to, 2000, I think the first domino was really 2012. So I was in a very good, cushy career at University of Phoenix, and I was an enrollment manager. And I was making $100,000 a year, just under that. And I was successful, winning awards, things like that. So I was doing really well, and I decided to make a change. I decided to basically switch industries and go from the education industry to the software industry. And I went over to a company called Infusionsoft, which is well known in digital marketing. And I worked over there in sales, and less than a year in, even though I was 108% to quota, I wasn't a top performer, but I was in the middle, somewhere. They let me go, and it was unexpected, and I was like, okay, and I moved on, and I had job opportunities within 24 hours. But I also took that opportunity to basically act on a idea and a notion that I had at the time, because as I worked at Infusionsoft, it really opened my eyes to possibilities of building a business, because I was talking to business owners, and so I decided to do some freelance work basically and help companies implement and get more value out of their Infusionsoft applications. So that was my first kind of stab, so to speak, at making money on my own without having to depend on a company to do so. And then fast forward maybe 2 months into that, I had some clients, I was making some money. I started at another company with a job, and this job was like a sales job that had the potential to make similar to what I was making before. And they gave me an ultimatum, essentially, a few 2 to 3 weeks into it, and they said, that I would have to change my schedule with my 3-year-old son. I'm a single dad. I have been. And basically they wanted me to leave like 7 p.m. or later instead of 5 p.m. a few days a week when I was expected to go pick up my son from preschool. And
so that was a non-negotiable.
Yeah, but it was still a tough pill to swallow. Like I remember at the time, like I'm a little bit of a rebellious personality. And so like when they told me that, I definitely felt this defiance, and I felt like, I wanted to say, you know what, screw you guys. I don't need you guys. But even though that was my impulse, my logical side was like, okay, can I do that? Should I do that? And so I basically, sat down and I went very like archaic, paper and pen, not like, tablet or computer. And I just wrote down like the difference between staying at the company and starting my own thing. I had my company's name already identified at the time. And I went through strengths and weaknesses of both of those paths that I could take. And from there, it was like the logical side of me started to agree with the emotional side of me. And at that point, it was, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to dive into entrepreneurship. I was going to create my own business. I was going to, I had key motivations, obviously, with my son, and the rest is history. And I've been doing it now for over 7 years. And, I've really worked my butt off to really develop myself as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a digital marketer in different facets. And, I really I know so many different disciplines of digital marketing. I'm a little bit of an anomaly, as I've been told, where I can do marketing automation. I could do copywriting, I can do landing pages. I can do advertising. I really can do quite a bit. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about my backstory and, how I got started. And now at this point, as you mentioned at the intro, I help e-commerce businesses transform their businesses into businesses that are set up to turn clicks into profits by using my ARM5 formula. And it's really meant for companies that are established, that want to have more success, and they also want to scale up to 7-8 figures by using digital advertising profitably.
Got it. So basically, you took your experience of helping businesses, and you are now helping them to market their business. So you were helping them when you were selling these various products to understand how to expand their marketing, how to expand their reach. And
Yep.
so you took that knowledge, and also you kind of took the experience of kind of weighing, should I stay with my job or should I start my own? So you have that in common with, I guess, with my audience and with a lot of the people that you're working with, is you made that leap and you made the tough decision. So you've been there and you could relate to many business owners just from that standpoint.
Yeah.
And now kind of you're using the info that you had and the system that you created basically to help scale businesses. So,
Right.
So let's talk a bit about scaling. So once you have a product, you've launched your product, you're selling successfully, you've gotten to a certain level of success, and you realize it's time to scale. So what do we do? Give us an example of how you would move from there to scale your business.
Yeah. So common challenges that I help companies solve when they come to either me or my company, they have some sales in their business, but maybe they haven't had predictability just yet, or maybe they have had predictability, but their growth isn't as fast as they would like. Their return on ad spend isn't as great as it could be. And it's really limiting their ability to invest back into business and grow faster by buying more traffic. And so my ARM5 formula really covers both of those types of scenarios. And it's really a set of systems. It's a methodology, it's a strategy, it's a process, but it's really a set of systems to help companies scale regardless of where they're at between those two different scenarios. Now, when it comes to scaling, the first thing that I have to say about that is that it really comes down to really knowing your numbers very, very well. And some key metrics that e-commerce business owners that are really good, they know their cost per customer, they know their average order value, and they know what their customer lifetime value. Now, to be able to scale effectively and also be able to have predictability, they're somewhat one and the same. You need to be able to acquire customers profitably, and it's really comparing that cost per customer to your average order value. Now, more established companies that have cash that they can spend and invest, and they can float, they can get away with getting closer and closer to break even, as opposed to seeing like a 3-to-1 or 5-to-1 or more profit, per customer, because they have the cash flow to cover between acquiring a customer and actually maximizing their profit, which is that customer lifetime value. So there's usually some gaps there. There's usually some gaps there between acquiring a customer profitably, or optimizing your average order value, or optimizing your customer lifetime value. And those gaps come down to having really strong marketing systems in place. Marketing systems, marketing processes, marketing techniques, they all kind of go into systems, in my opinion. And when it comes to, like, for example, on the front end, being able to acquire a customer profitably, it comes down to your advertising strategy. It comes down to your store and your average order value, and what are those systems in place that you're using to be able to optimize your conversions and optimize your average order value per customer. But then also, you're paying for clicks, you're paying for leads. It also comes down to your follow-up systems. How are you using follow-up to be able to follow up with people and convert them into leads and customers? So this way you're maximizing the value of every click and lead and customer that you're paying for. And that all comes down to your follow-ups. And that's why that's a system. And then finally, like when it comes to optimizing customer lifetime value, it comes down to having not just follow-up systems, but also really good strategies to be able to optimize that customer lifetime value. And we use different monetization strategies, different activation strategies to be able to really maximize the customer lifetime value, because that's, in my opinion, the number one metric of every e-commerce business is really maximizing what your customer lifetime value is, because that's going to allow you to have that 80-20 in your business, where you're earning 80% of your company's revenue from 20% of your audience. And that just comes down to, again, just having all your systems working in unison. And that's essentially what the ARM5 formula is. It's a series of systems, which I can cover the names of the systems, but it's a series of systems that really help a company be able to maximize their ROI from every dollar they're spending on clicks, on leads, and on customers.
Got it. And so, I mean, it sounds like you're talking about that there's a bunch of competing concerns. So on the one hand, you could be trying to optimize the lifetime customer value, which might not be exactly the same set of steps required for that as for maximizing profitability of the product right now. And so it sounds like there's a bunch of competing concerns when you're looking to scale the business. Some of them are about kind of short term, and some of them favor long term. And so you look to create systems that bridge the gaps, that basically serve the different purposes of like short-term profitability, cash flow, and also long-term growth.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, for example, a lot of times I work with companies that they're spending a decent amount of money per month on advertising. Let's just say $20,000 to $50,000. And, their ROAS, their return on ad spend is maybe 1.5 to 2, 2 times. So they're making back at the most $2 for every dollar spent on ads. So my ARM5 formula, what it does for them is it reduces their cost to acquire, which increases their profit, which increases their return on ad spend. Because part of the ARM5 formula is a front-end content marketing strategy or system. So this way you're acquiring clicks more cost effectively, which then converts into a lower cost to acquire a customer. And then, as I mentioned before, because we have monetization systems as a part of the ARM5 formula, it's also meant to like optimize and maximize the return on ad spend from the customers that you're generating. So we help companies implement like those systems, whether it's on the accelerator done with you side, which is a little bit more cost effective. It's really meant for, companies that are wanting to do it themselves, for whatever reason, whether it's because they don't have a whole lot of budget or they just want to learn themselves how to do this stuff. Or, this is really, that side of our business is really meant for, companies that are established that, but don't quite have that predictability or haven't had that scale where they're hitting 100,000 per month yet. And so we really help them on our done with you side, with the ARM5 Formula Accelerator, be able to implement those systems, with our help and our coaching and our content that we give them. And then on the agency side, we actually just do it for them. And companies pay us, $5,000, $10,000 per month plus for us to be able to implement the ARM5 Formula and become their marketing team and optimize the results of the ARM5 Formula for their businesses.
Got it. So it's like the done with you is kind of between the agency and the consulting. So on the one hand, consulting is like, well, here's what I see. Here's a bunch of recommendations. Now go do it. Agency side, you're doing the strategy. You're basically implementing it and managing it. And then I guess in the middle, you're referring to the done with you is kind of like, here's some recommendations. This is what you should do. We'll keep checking in with you and see how things are going, and we'll make sure that what the client is doing to implement it makes sense, and you're making suggestions on adjustments, I assume.
Yeah. It's an 8-week program, very cohesive. It's very like step by step. It's like basically giving them the blueprint and then helping them implement the blueprint. We do that through various video lessons delivered every single week, and also through live Q&A coaching calls just to support them. And they have lifetime access to both. So this way, if they take a little bit longer than 8 weeks, that's fine. Or they can get done faster if they're really driven and they're motivated.
Great. So I'm wondering if you can give like some examples of like some successes where you've gotten to a result, and maybe give an idea of kind of like what was the breakthrough that brought them or brought the client to that result.
Sure. Yep. So, I mean, for one, I'm going to talk about one example here that's a pretty massive example. And what really caused this result was the ARM5 Formula being in place and it being fairly mature, and us running it on a consistent basis as an agency team, as an extension of this brand. So we recently celebrated a day where we did 145,000 in one day, which was a awesome result that I'm very excited to talk about. And it wasn't something like magical or something that was like a tactical thing that happened on that one specific day. It was literally just because we've implemented these systems, we've optimized
all the things were in place to make it successful. Like you dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's. You had the different systems in place. Exactly.
And one of those systems is having a promotional calendar, and this is an activation system is what we call it. And so we help companies as a part of our process on the agency side, especially. We help companies create a promotional calendar, and then we run those promotions. And because of all these systems in place, when we run these promotions, we see some tremendous results that spike, at times. I mean, like overall, companies are averaging about a 900% return on ad spend when they work with us. This was taken late last year in December. Now, in what this company that did 145,000 in one day, they've seen, for example, this year, they've seen 1,777% return on ad spend during like a 2-week time frame during COVID, when COVID first hit. And that's because we pivoted their advertising strategy and their messaging a bit to really capitalize on boosting immunity and consuming this company's supplement products to be able to have higher immunity and to be able to prevent themselves from getting COVID. And so that was, a tremendous result. And then we also saw, fairly recently with Mother's Day, we saw I think it was a 2,500 something % return on ad spend. I know we made 145,000 in like 2 days in that example. So, that again, it just really comes down to having those systems in place and then having an incredible offer and then running that incredible offer and running it, very precisely. And that comes down to obviously having really, really good processes and people. And, we do that time and time again on the agency side when it comes to running promotions for our clients. And when we do that, because we've got all those follow-up systems in place to be able to maximize the effectiveness of promotions that we run, we see some tremendous results. Like, we saw, for example, over a year ago, a new client that started with us within 60 days, we ran a promotion for him, and he made back $132,000 in 7 days, and he only spent $2,500 on ads. So it works. It works very, very well, and and again, it's because it's all process and systems based.
Yeah.
And we really have it all 100% dialed in on both sides, whether it's the done with you or the agency side.
Got it. And like, if you can give an example of just the systems that you would have in place for that, according to your formula, like what are the major systems, like even briefly?
Sure. Yeah. I can cover them all, and I'd love just to give your audience maybe a few techniques too that they can implement also into their business. This way they can see some gains in their results as well. So it comes down to having 9 different systems: content marketing, customer activation, customer monetization, omnichannel strategy, budget allocation, affiliate utilization, acquiring customers cost effectively, and also ad scaling techniques. Ad scaling techniques is the last thing, because you need the other systems in place first to really be able to scale effectively, because otherwise you're going to hit the same challenge that I hear all the time and why companies come to us, which is, I can't seem to break through past a 2x ROAS when I scale up to 50,000 or more per month. And that's just because you don't have the systems in place, and you're not maximizing the value of every click that you're paying for from ads. And so when you go to scale, you keep hitting that ceiling, and that's why you're limiting your ROAS, because you need to improve your systems in your business first in order to be able to see that ROAS be able to be at a 5 or 6x, for example, especially when you're scaling at that point. So those are the systems of the ARM5 formula. The first one that first technique that I'll kind of share with your audience is our content marketing system. So content marketing right now is huge when it comes to advertising. And I've had this in 2 of my books, Facebook Advertising Trends and Strategies for E-commerce, 2019 and 20. And I've had various people in my books over the past several years that are other well-known rock stars in the Facebook advertising world for e-commerce, and they all say the same thing that I say, that in order to be able to use Facebook, which is, I wouldn't say it's the #1 advertising channel, but it's definitely #1 or #2 next to Google. And in my opinion, Facebook is best for front-end targeting because of the fact that Facebook had access to so much data on all of us. I laugh when I say that because it's kind of creepy, but it's true. And as a business, you can really leverage that, to be able to get the right people into your marketing funnel to follow up with them, to turn them into leads and customers. And so one of the simple things that someone can do because of these trends that are happening on Facebook is you can use content to be able to acquire the click or acquire the view. That should be like the first touch that e-commerce businesses should really focus on when it comes to cold traffic. This is something that I still see, even though this trend's been around for over 2 years now, and they're in my books. But I still see e-commerce businesses that are all about acquiring the customer on that first view from prospect to brand, instead of providing that value up front through content. And when you apply that to your marketing, you really believe in it, and you commit to it for a few months, and you do it very, very well, that's when you'll see your cost per click and your cost per customer come down, and you'll see your ROAS increase because you're acquiring customers at a lower rate, because you're using content which is going to get you a cheaper click and a cheaper cost per view versus you just showing an offer to someone that doesn't know anything about you. So that's a simple technique that works very, very well, especially at scale, because at scale you really do have to have like a full step by step when we're talking about Facebook, you have to have a full step by step Facebook advertising funnel, so to speak, in place. And that first step is awareness. And that just comes down to providing really valuable content to the audience that your brand serves. And, you could do that through content research, using content research tools like SEMrush, BuzzSumo, surveys, or if you just get in front of your audience, whether it's events or Facebook Live, you can obviously pull, different topics from them that way. You could even go to Amazon and look at your product feedback or reviews, or look at competitors' products and the feedback and reviews on those product listings to identify topics that you could publish content about. So all that, could feed into the content engine, which will position your brand, will also provide value to an audience that doesn't know anything about your brand, and will also reduce your cost per click and your cost per customer when you actually get those people into your marketing and then you convert them over into leads and customers. So that's one thing. Do you want me to go on and on, or do you have a question about that?
No, I think that's awesome, really. And I guess just in general, it shows that there's for your system, you've got 9 different systems, and each one of those is nuanced, right?
Yep.
It's like, someone could say, okay, I'll do those 9, but there's nuances that come from experience with marketing, where you kind of know how to take that one concept of say content marketing and make it work for a particular business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that's a universal concept that works with every business, that will help every business be able to sell more, convert at a higher rate when they go to make an offer, and it's going to reduce their cost per customer.
Great. Awesome. Yep. So now, and this is awesome, and all the information that you're sharing is really helpful and great information. And I know that you host this show, the e-commerce performance marketing show.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the show, and just tell me about some of the guests that you've had on the show.
Yeah. I've had incredible guests. You were on the show, which I appreciate, and but I've had some guys that are doing 8+ figures a year in their e-commerce business. Like I just had Ryan McKenzie of True Earth fairly recently, and he has a tremendous story about his business, and his business has grown to 8 figures in I think just 12 months, which doesn't surprise me because I've known Ryan for years, and even before he was involved with True Earth and he started that brand, he's been a successful marketer, but now he's really crushing it, which is great to see and hear. I've also had some guys like Jeff Atkinson of Overstock, formerly of Overstock, and so he's got literally 200 million plus sales behind him. I've also had Ron Lynch, who has done $4 billion in infomercial, that's what I meant to say. Infomercial marketing, he's got tremendous experience in that. Now he's applying those same principles and tactics and strategies to digital and doing video advertising very, very effectively. I've had Alex Brown, formerly of the Beard Club. I've had tons of other guests too. I think we're right now at 40 episodes, and half of those episodes have been guests. And we'll continue to, have incredible guests as well.
Nice. And so, how can people learn more about you or contact you to see about possibly working with you?
Yeah. They can reach out to us. They can go to CVO Accel. That's CVO ACCEL.com, or they can go to ARM5 Formula.com as well, especially for the accelerator if they want to go through our Done With You program, which guarantees results. So they can reach out either way, whether they want help on the agency side with CVOAccel.com, or if they are more interested in learning how to implement the ARM5 formula themselves and they want to work with us directly in doing so, but they want to go through the process and they want to implement it and they want to see results in their business and get their business up to 7-8 figures a year. They can go to arm5formula.com for that.
Great. And the show itself is, I know it's on YouTube. You've got a YouTube channel. What's the name of the channel?
Yep. So it's actually, if they just go to YouTube and just type in Joshua Marsden, Marsden, they'll see my channel come up, and it's the Ecom Performance Marketing Show. And I also have an old Ecom All-Stars show on my channel as well with guys like Ezra Firestone, Roland Frazier, James Schramko, and a bunch of other rock stars as well. It's more of like a Netflix series where there's 12 episodes, and then I'll do like another 12 episodes in the future. So I've got 2 different shows that they can access on YouTube. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, IGTV. I'm also on LinkedIn. Or you can just listen to it. You can go to iTunes, you can go to Spotify, or you can go to Google Play, and you can search for my name or the Ecom Performance Marketing Show, and you can access it from there as well.
Great. Josh, this was amazing. I really appreciate you being on the show. Josh Marsden, look him up. He's everywhere. And, again, thanks for being here. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for listening to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at innovationsandbreakthroughs.com, and we'll see you next time.